And here we go. We've got
Hello.
Nikao. I'm showing your screen, right?
Are you? I don't know. I
No,
see
no, no.
the
I mean,
official HRTX shirt. Oh,
I mean,
first, no. You're gonna show Nathan's, my
oh
dad.
yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
gonna
show
show.
his
Okay, there
first.
we go.
Yeah.
There we go. You just call your dad Nathan?
Well, Nathan to you, dad to me.
So, all right, Nathan, there we go. I sent it over. So for those of you who do not know, Nathan is the older version of Nikao. That is his dad. So he might call him Nathan. He might call him dad. We don't know. All we know is that they are on vacation in a resort and they are sitting next to each other on two separate monitors with one microphone. That was freaky. Yeah, they can reach across. And if Nikao gets a little wise, Nathan can give him a backhand, so that'd be pretty cool
That's right.
too.
There you go.
Yeah, if he starts running too long, we can kind of cut that short.
There we go. So guys, I'm so excited to have you on. I'm not gonna waste too much time. I know you guys have a couple of recs you're gonna run through, but we hear you loud and clear. So the resort Wi-Fi is good.
Thank
Good.
Our
goodness.
fingers crossed, and let's take advantage of that. And I'm gonna shut myself down.
Awesome. Sounds good. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Well, thanks everybody. It is kind of exciting to be here and be discussing sourcing and things like that. I think with the new background for us and Wi-Fi and all that, we had a few challenges, but we made it. So I just wanted to say thank you and looking forward to it. I wanted to give you a little bit about my perspective on sourcing and before I jump into this. And then,
Hey guys, real quick
I know Mikhail have a little bit different perspective as
Oh,
well.
yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, before we kick off, Nathan, we're seeing your inbox. Is that where you wanted us to be?
Yeah, no, let's not do that. Let's have you take a look at, there we go.
There you go. Perfect.
about
Okay.
that.
Just
All
wanted
right.
to be sure.
There we go. Yep, that's what we want you to see. So anyway, when I'm sourcing, I like to really take a role, such as this dynamics role here, and kind of pick it apart, especially if it's something that I'm not familiar with. I've been doing technology for quite a while now, so this was a little bit more familiar to me than some others. But if you were to get a role that you really didn't know a whole lot about, I think sometimes just keyword searching can get you into a little bit of trouble if you don't really understand the role. So obviously, we know to do intake calls, try to get as much information as we can, and then do, our own pre-research. I think when we have, high volume recruiting and we're sitting there trying to knock out a ton of recs and candidates as quickly as possible, I know sometimes I get tempted to cut a few corners, but you really can't do that. And so we took a look at these recs, and I think this it's kind of interesting that this Dynamics 365 rec that I wound up with, because I had one recently very similar to this, and I already knew the pitfalls of it before I got here, so it's like, okay, this is going to be fun. But just wanted to let you know that we actually, what I think what we'll do is I'm going to run through like my portion, what I would do with it here, and then also I'll flip it over to Nikao and we'll kind of go back and forth. So anyway, this Dynamics A365, obviously, and looking at this, the skills there are pretty obvious. But if you go down to the role itself, it's talking about help lead development efforts in agile development with daily stand-ups, sprint planning, that type of thing, implements web designs, blah, 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 develops and implements new features. So this is a pretty senior level position. It's not exactly entry level. So you're looking for somebody that knows what they're doing. I don't know the exact years of experience, but they're going to need to be able to do, unit testing using architecture standards. This is a senior role. So for me, what I would do is I'm going to just go here to, let's go to this one here. Okay, so just in starting my search, I'm going to do just straight old Boolean on Google, and then I'm going to show you a few alternatives. I can already tell you though, because of the complexity or the difficulty of this role, this is going to be an interesting search here. So just start with in URL. And actually, you know what? It's bringing up my my previous search, but that's
Giving
okay.
you away.
Yep, it's giving me away. Or Untitled. All right. And then let's just do, let's see here. I like, one of the things that I did in the research on this is just look at the other ways that people are going to talk about this particular title. And I want to let you know, I'm putting MS Dynamics on here without the 365 as well, because when you're looking on Google, you may be coming across profiles that are a few years old. And if they haven't been actively looking for a job, they actually may not have updated their profiles. So I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, this means we're gonna have to pick up the phone and make a few calls to verify that they have the skills that we're looking for, especially 365. So I'm putting in here the other acronyms that I found that would actually, whoop, let's do, okay.
Oh, I think you missed your
Did I?
Dynamics file.
No, I did.
Flip the C.
There we go. Okay. So I did this just for fun to show you right off the bat. We're not going to get millions and millions of hits. So with just NURL resume and the different versions of Dynamics, really no other skills. There's only 17,000.
It's not at all concerning, is it?
And it's not concerning at all. So there's only 17,000 out there. That means we're going to have to do some work to actually find the people that we're looking for. All right. So obviously we need to narrow down these results a little bit. You know, I'm sure you already know you can only really view 1,000 results on Google. You know, whenever you bring them back. So let's make it better. And let's put in a few skills. I know we'll keep the difficult ones to the end, but let's just do Agile or Scrum. All right. And I'd like to check it along. That didn't do too much to it, but let me show you what will. This is the fun one. So they're going to need a programming language, in this case, C#. I like to put my quotes around it just to make sure that it's pulling back what I'm looking for. And we went from 17,000 down to 4,000. Now, if you haven't done a whole lot of Boolean, you may not realize it. If you're a Boolean rock star, you already know. I've done nothing to get rid of the trash yet. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that is completely, has nothing to do with what we're looking for. That's going to make it interesting, though. All right. Let's just try, for the heck of it, put in a little bit of those. On Google, we can use a minus sign. We don't have to use the not. So I'm going to use minus sample, minus example, minus free, minus template. That'll be enough to start with, I think.
And did you want to explain, just for those who may not know, why you're doing that specifically?
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of the things in here that are like job ads, the things that are resume writers, you know, and then anything that's not necessarily a profile. You can still see here, though, that not all of these are a profile or a resume that you would just open up and contact them and ask them, hey, do you want my job? It's not going to be that easy, not with this role. I usually, this is a search that I would do if I've already exhausted all of the resources that you do on a daily basis. So let's say you've got Dice or Career Builder or even LinkedIn, and you've done all of that. This is what I would do if I've already hit a brick wall with all those other things, because this particular type of search, I think, is a great place for resources and for networking, but especially really complex roles or roles that are harder to find like this. You're not going to find a bunch of people that just posted their resume out there and said, hey, call me, because obviously they'd be getting tons of those calls. But these are people that you can at least network with. So there are a few resumes here, probably not as many as you want to help you fill that role. But I think it's at least a good start. there's still 1,630 on there. So let's go over and add another skill set that's required from this job, which is SQL Server. And that's going to take the results way down. I like to put my required skills here before, but. And this is still not all of the required skills. Took it down to 1390, which isn't as bad as I thought. One of the things that I have found recently, I don't know if it's because people are busy or if they're staying in their jobs a little bit longer, but candidates, or I should say, you know, the engineers, they think differently than we do. Obviously, when we get ready to do a search, we want it all nice and neat. We need all of the keywords. We need all of the intricacies of the profile listed right there for us. So we expect to be able to go into Google and just knock it out. Well, these guys have jobs. I mean, they're busy working. They're not updating their resume every single day. And if they are, they're probably not the candidate that you want anyway. Anyway.
And from that, we've also seen too, on that point, that there is often, for some roles, a great disparity between what is expressed on a job description and the type of language they use to describe one skill set versus how a candidate chooses to describe that exact same skill set. Use very different words. So if you just pull exactly what you see from the job description without, you know, maybe knowing a bit about the role ahead of time, you'll often see just not the kind of results you want. In this case, it's not too terribly different, but that is something to watch out for other roles too.
Okay, so I want to show you. I know that you know, we need to be focusing mostly on free resources, but obviously we could narrow this down a little bit more by putting in a few more skill sets in there. But I want to take you over and show you this exact search minus all of the minuses, no pun intended, but anyway, getting rid of all of the sample example and all of that, but the rest of the search. So let's just take, starting here with, with just the Microsoft. And I want to do this Boolean search and everybody's favorite, which is LinkedIn. And I want to show you here. Let's just do a new tab. So I'm going to do an X-ray search for LinkedIn. Okay. /n, and then, okay, so this is just my Boolean search from Google. We had about 1,300 over in Google, and here we've got 17,900. Now, the one thing that I wanted to tell you about X-raying LinkedIn, you could take the exact same Boolean string that I put in here for this X-ray search, and you're going to get a different number of results back because it's based on your network. So,
and just for anyone who missed it, the key thing to notice is that he changed the beginning part of that. Instead of searching for resumes that are posted out on the web, he's specifically X-raying LinkedIn profiles.
So I would say that these are, obviously, it's a stronger return of results. If you're doing a search inside of LinkedIn Recruiter, and actually, I think I misspoke about that just a little bit. If you're inside LinkedIn Recruiter, your results are based on your network. The reason that you would search outside of LinkedIn using a browser is because it indexes, or Google goes out and indexes all of the public pages for LinkedIn. So you're going to get a lot better results by searching here than inside of LinkedIn Recruiter, which is why I did not go in there. Just for the sake of time, I don't really want to do that right now because I think it would take up too much time to show you, but you could take this same exact search and go inside a Recruiter and your results would not be as much. Obviously, this is too much to look at. So with LinkedIn, one of the things that I would do, and it depends on where you are sourcing for this particular resource. If you, and hopefully this one does allow for relocation, but if not, you would need to search the local geography or a geographical area for where you want. But I'm right now just going to go ahead and put in United States. This isn't a 100% accurate term because it may pull back somebody that did something in the United States but may not be there necessarily right now. There is a way to fix that with a pretty healthy Boolean search, but at least I want to just show you right now. If we were to take and just put United States and include that into the X-ray search for LinkedIn. It obviously takes the results way down, but still, that's 2,240 people. It is a lot more than was in just my straight Boolean search out of Google. So I think that's it's a pretty decent place to start. I think that Hotshot over here with all of his AI sourcing and his secret weapon, he could probably do considerably better than that. But we'll have him show his stuff here in a few minutes. There's one thing that I want to go over with you and show you, and you might not have thought about this, but I think COVID has introduced something really, really interesting, and that is the amount of people that are using Facebook. If you haven't searched on Facebook, there's probably people that you're overlooking. I wouldn't necessarily reach out to people on Facebook directly. That's just my personal opinion. If I can't reach them or if I couldn't reach them another way, then I would. I did 2 weeks ago to a Microsoft Dynamics candidate, and he is now currently interviewing with my client. The reason I did it through Facebook was because his LinkedIn profile was blocked. And of course, you know what the first question he asked me was, how did you find me? Well, anyway, it's kind of funny. I was on Messenger. I would have thought that was pretty obvious, but maybe not. So I want to show you how to search this particular skill set in Facebook using an X-ray. I don't like to search inside of Facebook. So obviously we're going to do a site search again, and actually it just popped up for me, so I'm not going to go ahead and type it all out, but I'll show you here what it is. So it's facebook.com, and I only really did Dynamics 365. I didn't add the other possibilities. We can, but I'm really doing this to show you how to search within Facebook. If you are using Boolean already, you already know the other things that you can use. But by putting a profile photo in quotation marks, that's going to bring back public profiles of people that are in there rather than just jobs or anything like that. So we don't want posts, we don't want watch or people that are mentioned or different things like that. So really it's a pretty basic search. It's just Dynamics 365 with inside of Facebook. And here you go. So these are people that have got Dynamics 365 listed in their profile somewhere. Now, you can reach out to these guys if you need to. And if you don't already know this, I will tell you, use your mobile phone and reach out to them through Messenger, or let's go to this guy and see if I can make this work here real fast. If you pull up their profile, I'm logged into Facebook, so this should bring up, it does. Okay, so if we go to message right here, this is still gonna go to his other box or to his spam folder. The way to get him to be notified is you wanna open it in Messenger. And that actually opens a browser. And then now you can send him a message here and say, hi, Bill, Al, Fanny, Mecca, and I know I probably mispronounced that terribly, but anyway, anyway, you can reach out to him here. He will receive a notification that he's been messaged, and he has to obviously accept it or whatever, but
so going to the Messenger app prevents it from just going to spam.
Right, right. So again, if you go back and just message from Messenger within his profile, like right here, it's just going to go to his other folder. He's not going to get it.
You don't want that.
No, no. All right. And let's go to technology. I'm going to switch over to the man himself and let him go crazy wild with his AI over here. Let's just see here. What we want is attendees. And whoop.
I may not have cleared the test. Are you guys able to switch my?
I just did.
Oh, you did.
Yep.
Perfect.
Made you the presenter.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. Oh shoot, I don't want this here right now.
Yeah, we saw it. Secret.
No, I don't want my. It has. They can't see it, but it has the cameras up here. This wasn't happening last time. We'll just minimize this and put this in the corner. Okay. Awesome. Here. That's still too big. Put that down there. All right. So with this Dynamics 365 engineer search, the first thing I did was go to the job description. and just pull off some of the things that I saw as potential keywords for me to either research further that I may not have known a lot about, or that I do know about and that I know will be important in the search. And that's not something that you're able to do for a brand new role that may be very unfamiliar to you. For example, maybe it's like John was showing earlier, maybe it's a digital signal processing engineer, and you've never seen something like that before, and you have difficulty figuring out what might be important or not. Then the first step is just to research what actually is digital signal processing, because something that I want to emphasize is kind of like how my dad was saying, is that one of the most important things to not only search properly, but also to review the profiles and resumes properly to deliver quality candidates is to understand what the role actually entails. You don't need to become a Dynamics 365 engineer yourself, but you do need to understand a little bit about what is going on in a profile to see when you read something, you're not just playing buzzword bingo, quote unquote, and just looking for your keywords and moving on. If you just look for those keywords and move on, you'll end up with some profiles that could be pretty off target and not what you want to be messaging or delivering to a client or whatever you may be doing with them. So that said, the first step was for me to glean those keywords that I saw as potentially helpful. And so the first thing I wanted to do was just kind of drop in, Microsoft Dynamics or Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Azure, SQL Server, and then PCF, which I did do some research on. I was like, okay, we see PCF controls here on our job description. What is that? I have no idea what that is. I then learned it stands for Power Apps Component Framework, and researched a little bit about that. So I'm going to be using Seekout, not sponsored or anything. It's just a particular tool that I like to use. And as well, don't be discouraged by it if you don't have Seekout or you want to use free tools only. This Boolean is something you can use wherever you want to. This really is just teaching you the principles of it, and I'm going to use Seekout just because it does not limit my Boolean characters, and it also allows me to use the people insights function that was shown just a few minutes earlier, so you can get an idea of what is actually in your search in a shorter amount of time. You can definitely do that in Google by hand, but it just makes it a little bit faster. So we'll go ahead and close that out because that's not what I want. So here's just a basic search to kind of see what comes back. So we see there's only 16 candidates here. That's kind of surprising to me. I thought that there would certainly be more. And so
doesn't surprise me.
doesn't surprise him,
I've been searching for these.
It certainly surprised me. I was like, wow, okay, this is a very short Boolean string, at least for what you can short for what I would normally write for something like this. And yet I only have 16 results. So obviously something is amiss here. And I ended up just discovering, like, okay, let's play with our keywords. Let's see which requirement here in my Boolean is holding us back significantly. And I came to discover it was the last piece about PCF. So when we take that out, our results shoot up to over 4,400 results. Just great. That's a much better starting place to be at. And so I won't dive into all the research now just for the sake of time, but when you come across that, it's very important not to just simply drop a requirement from your Boolean that might be important, but to then go and research, okay, what are the other ways that PCF controls might be expressed on a profile? Maybe it's a case of, like I mentioned earlier, we're just playing buzzword bingo. We grab from the job description and drop it in, and it's just not how candidates actually express it on their profile. But I went through that research process and I didn't really find anything that was showing me significant other ways that it can be expressed. And it also seemed like from my initial research into it that it wouldn't be something that the other Dynamics engineers that we would come across might lack, or that they can at least learn pretty easily. So we're going to go back over to here to our sheet here. So we've established that PCF is holding us back. So then the next step I want to do is, now that I have 4,400 results, which is way too many, we're going to keep the string that we had earlier, this portion of it, and add a little bit to it. So we have some requirements of SSIS, which stands for SQL Server Integration, and then also add in CI/CD here as well into our search string. So we're going to copy that and just drop that in and kind of see and play with it. And just to highlight kind of the overall strategy of what I'm doing, I'm starting wide and trying to hone in, or at least trying to start wide, and maybe we have to kind of pull that back out and gradually add more to our or statements. So now we see here, we get 139 people. That's That's not great considering I haven't added anything as far as geography or even a title string. Notice this is literally just Boolean irrespective of title. So then my next step would be to, actually that's not the right page, come down here and we can look at our search result, this people insights function. This does look different from what was shown earlier because I do have the old UI for Seek Out, but so that we can see here with our current title string that, people here are, a lot of them are pretty on target, that looks good. And so again, this is a process that if you're just searching on Google, do it on Google as well. If you scroll through your results and just see, okay, here's a manager, maybe we don't want a manager. Here's an architect, maybe we don't want an architect. Then try to add that to a not statement. So that's what we're gonna do here. We added this manager, architect, director, VP, president, C something, whether that's CIO, CEO perhaps, then we eliminate that. So we can drop that in here. Boom. And then that brings us to 75. So that cuts down some things we don't want as well. And so I, again, played with my search a little bit here and I was like, okay, what part of this search that we just did, this one right here, is holding us back the most? Because I really want to try to get more results than that this early in the process. And I determined that it was the CI/CD piece, or continuous integration, continuous delivery, that was holding me back. So what I decided is to just, let's take that out and add in C#. And maybe what kind of results does that give us? And that's 257. That's better. That's certainly better. But we are missing the CI/CD piece, which for this role seems like it could be particularly important. So then the question is, how do we include those people but still get the enough people that we might want? And so there's also just a quick fun tip for those of you that do have Seek Out. Try out these power filters down here. It is pretty interesting. They have power filters for Azure, for all sorts of different things. They have them for clearance, like John was showing earlier. There's a lot. So do definitely try those out. They get me better results than simply using Boolean, but I'm going to stick to Boolean. That way, those of you who don't have Seek Out can feel free to use this or replicate it however you like. And so back to our earlier issue, the CI/CD Boolean piece is what was holding us back. So the question is, how do we expand that? Key thing is to just do a little bit of research. This is exactly what I did. Was I just go to Google, search in CI/CD, and learn a little bit about it. And what I was able to glean from my search, from just reading, maybe it's a Wikipedia article or an article from someone who's influential in the industry, I was able to glean that Agile is another way to express this. I think it was even expressed on the job description. And because Agile is essentially this methodology, and the whole continuous integration and continuous delivery process is a key part of that. I also was able to glean from my research that Scrum is simply an Agile methodology framework. So I added that in as well. We're going to keep our not current title string in here just to knock out some of the obvious people who are not a fit for our role. Close this, go back here, and search that. So notice now that our results jump up to 178 from, I think, the 90 or something like that we're at before. We can go ahead and test it right now. So I only added those two words. That's the only difference. And I have C# in here as an addition. Makes a pretty significant difference, 52 to 178, simply from doing maybe 5-10 minutes of researching, adding 2 words to your search. So this is a great example of how important it is just to do a little bit of research. Don't just grab from the job description, but kind of branch out a little bit, see what else might be out there as a possibility. Then this is a kind of another step up that you might want to do if you're having particular challenges. Is okay. So here's an example of what I determined. Scrum, like I mentioned, is an Agile methodology framework, right? And so if it's a framework, I'm sure there's multiple other frameworks for the Agile methodology. So what I literally did was just go to Google, type in Agile methodology frameworks. Maybe the exact page will come up. I think this is the exact page. Yep, awesome. boom, it took me 30 seconds and I just found all these different agile methodology frameworks that I could add to my Boolean string. So I went ahead and did that with all the different acronyms. It is totally your choice if you want to add acronyms or not. I would just be aware of what the acronyms are bringing back, because something like ASD can mean a lot of different things. So I did that. Didn't take me too terribly long at all, obviously. Drop it in. And let's see the difference it makes. So we went from 178 to 179. So it added a whole one person to our search, right? So in this case, maybe that was an example of over-researching, but I do want to encourage you to definitely do that when you're having difficulty with a search, because I cannot tell you how many times I followed that exact same process and just seeing, okay, how can we expand our search? How do candidates actually express this skill on their profile? That it multiplied my results, often by 3 times. And then that enabled me to add more specifics to my search to further dial it in and increase the quality of the candidates that I was getting and messaging. So it didn't work this time, but it's definitely something that can be helpful in the future. And then the last thing that I did here was just, okay, maybe let's expand C#. How else could that be expressed? Maybe like that, C# or C#, which is very strange, but surprisingly, some people do express it this way, because we go from 179 results to 181. So there were a few people that actually did it that way, and that was a very quick fix, quick addition to the search. So that can kind of just give you a good idea of maybe some of the ways that you can expand your search and go about thinking, how do candidates actually express this particular thing on their profiles? What are they writing? And so there's 2 ways to do that. There's the way that I showed you, where you simply Google some of the keyword terms that you have from your job description and see what comes back. Or there is another way that can be kind of wonky, but it's a more primary source of information. So if we're wanting, do you think we're okay on time as far as on the next roll? I think.
Yeah, we got time.
Okay, so this way is kind of fun, but it's a little wonky. So if we're wanting to figure out how are candidates expressing particular skill sets on their profile, you can always add the things from your job description to a not statement. So I gave this example in a presentation earlier, but at another time. But let's say we're looking for software engineers that are skilled in Golang and Kubernetes. So then I would actually want to search not, Golang, or Kubernetes. Even though I'm looking for people who have Golang and Kubernetes. So, I might add that to a current title statement. And obviously, I would expand this much further than that, but if I was doing this, so maybe add that to a current title statement, and then search for specific job functions. So maybe type in develop software or different things to that effect. And it's not the greatest example of it, but in doing so and adding the keywords you are looking for to a not statement, particularly if it's something very specific like a digital signal processing engineer, you will often find out the other ways that those things are expressed, because you are eliminating all of the profiles that express it the way that you already know. So there's essentially only things for you to learn from. From that, you can learn that Golang can be expressed as Go and Kubernetes can be expressed as K8s. So it's a little bit of a strange way to go about it, but it can be kind of a fun way and just a good way to do if you're not having much luck with researching and looking at articles, because it is the primary source of information. I mean, if you're wanting to examine how people write something on their profiles, you should probably look at profiles. But it can be more time costly to you. So that's a little bit about how to do this particular role and how to research and just expand and not play buzzword bingo, because that's the wrong way to go with profiles. It's, thankfully this isn't a retirement home, so we're not going to play bingo here just yet. But all right, did you want to dive into the RF engineer?
Yeah, we can go into the RF engineer a little bit.
Let's see if I can make you the share screen here, right click you, make presenter. Okay, there you go. Should be good to go.
Okay, So let's go to share my screen. Okay, so this was an interesting role to get. Obviously, it's not the typical software position that I am used to, so I had to do a bit of research. I don't I don't know enough to hold an electrical engineering degree and know what this does, but I do know that RF is indeed a technology that is used in a lot of IoT devices. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely, I think, something that is going to be difficult to find, but when you look at the skill set, I know you're going to see that you can use pretty much the methodology or whatever that we're doing here with anything that you're doing. I'm going to go back and start a very similar process that I did a while ago with the other searches. Let me minimize this window here. And let's go into Incognito so it doesn't start printing out everything that I already typed in once before. I want to be able to at least print it out for you. Okay, so this, however, we're going to have trouble when we go back over to the other sites. But anyway, just to get started, let's at least start the search here. So let's do in URL, and it is doing it here. Okay, well, didn't think that it would, but as a and then let's just do, again, I did, actually added in signal processing first. Let's see here. Title to be RF. I'm going to put that. Whoop. I want signal processing, and then I want RF or RFID or radio frequency. Okay. Pretty basic. Really, it's mostly just title. We've got signal processing in there. Still, it's 39,000. So, I mean, it's a decent place to start, but this in no way is actually, you know, contacts that you can pick up the phone and call, even though they've got, and actually I've got this really shouldn't be capitalized. I don't know if it's going to make that much difference in the search or not, but I don't want to chance it. All right, so just a basic Boolean search. I'm going to add a few more things in here. This particular role, and we didn't really scan through it that long. It requires a top secret clearance. It also, there is a, I believe it's a OSI model that they're looking for. And I wanted to show you that's where it's actually going to cut the results way back. Again, you can see there's some trash in here. I haven't done anything as far as like getting rid of samples or any of that. I'm just trying to get a feel for, okay, what does the what does the map look like out there as far as information? There's a lot of times you can find good research and valuable information even from the things that you wouldn't necessarily call a viable profile for you to look at. I'm more about researching the results to see what's out there. I have spent quite a bit of time going down rabbit holes, but it can be very fruitful, and sometimes it can be a time swallower. So you got to pick and choose when you can do that. But it is kind of fun. I love the research. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in OSI. I don't want to necessarily put the whole phrase in there, but let's see what that does to it. Took it down to 914 results. So I'm pretty sure that OSI is indeed a requirement for this role. So I thought it was very interesting that we take the results down this far. Now, if we go in, whoops, my earpiece fell out here. If we go in and type clearance, it's going to get even more interesting. But I just wanted to do it to show you what the return on results is going to look like. And I'm not even going to type in top secret or anything like that. I just want the word clearance. I try to start as wide as I can and then just keep narrowing in my search till I get just the right few people. But I still want a good idea of what's out there, what's available. So now we're down to 412. It's a pretty interesting amount of people, but again, remember, I haven't taken out any of the garbage. So when you do that, let's go over here. Sample. example, jobs, template, and let's try that for now. 5. So you can see these guys are going to be tough to find out there. And even this is not completely great. Post jobs free is coming up. There's a few of the things that we could do. While this is showing, I think I've got a couple minutes to show you this. I don't know if you've ever used the image search before or not, but you can see right here, there are images that are showing up in this particular search. They were before as well, but just didn't really go to them. Some of them are going to be resumes. You can actually make this even a little bit better, do black and white only. And let's go look here. This is resume of, okay, that's a really good one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not sure he's actually advertising for an RF engineer.
Well, it's a 1937 birthday.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. So this guy's actually in the
You hadn't
military.
opened that one before, had you?
No, I have not. That made for pretty fun. I guess it could have been worse, huh?
This is true.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is true.
So anyway, these are profiles that may show up on here, but I would always look at the documents that show up in your search just for the sake of curiosity. Okay, let's go back here. I want to show you the search string. Okay, let's get out of there. So the same exact search string without all the minus chunk. Let's go over into LinkedIn. I'm logged into LinkedIn over here. So let's do an X-ray search on LinkedIn. .com and just my Boolean search. I think what were we down to 2 before? Here you've got 31. And remember, I'm not searching LinkedIn from inside of LinkedIn Recruiter. This is just an X-ray search of LinkedIn. So again, what I would do, I did not do an intake call on this particular position. I don't know how important the OSI model is. I would imagine it is. This may be something that candidates may or may not put on their profiles. I don't know that much about this particular skill set. I know a lot of times engineers will assume that you know that they have a certain skill set if they have something else listed. So obviously 31 is not really enough to work with. So I'm going to remove it and just do another search. There's 2000. So there's a possibility that some of these candidates here may have the OSI skill set. Again, this is probably one of those requirements where you're going to have to make a few phone calls to figure it out. This is not a technology that I'm familiar with, so making phone calls would be one of the things I would want to do anyway, because you can do a ton of research online, but believe me, there's nothing like picking up the phone and actually talking to people, especially if you get somebody who wants to talk and spend a few minutes, let them talk your arm off, but they'll give you a lot of good information and take as many good notes as you possibly can. I did not try this one in Facebook, but I would be really curious. I'm extremely doubtful that.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, very, very doubtful that this is going to be over in Facebook, but let's try. So site.
And guys, we do have a whole bunch of questions.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah,
We do
yeah,
have a whole bunch of questions coming out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't we take
All right.
like 5 minutes and then we'll go into the questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm going to. Okay, that should do it. No, I didn't think so.
Oh, maybe your space after.
Where's that?
I don't know if the space changes that after facebook.com.
Yeah, probably does.
Maybe. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Oh, you got 7. And you got 7 people you didn't have before. One other thing though that I want to show you about this. This is a tough role, obviously. So one of the things that I would like to do in my research is I'm going to remove the NURL resume and NURL entitled resume. I want to show you something. Let's go back here. This is a pretty senior role. If you look at the requirements. So I want people who have either authored something or published something. but would be related to any of these. So just easy enough to do. Okay, we need to narrow that down, obviously. But more than likely, any results that are coming up here are going to be articles. They're going to be some sort of publication, could be either copyrights or anything like that, where somebody has either authored something or something has been published. There may be blog articles. These are places where I would go to either research or network with people. If you can find names in here, you can find them somewhere else on the web. There's a lot of places, and we don't really have the time to go into this now, but where you can do, researching of lists of people who have electrical engineering degrees from the IEEE or different things like that. So I think
I would love to jump in and toot his horn here too. There was a particular role. What was that with the DEF CON groups? What role was that?
That was a cybersecurity role.
Yeah. A very challenging role that I'll tell them about just some of the different things.
So let me give you just
so get the philosophy.
Yeah, I'm going to give a 2-minute shout out. I have to say thank you to Jim Schneider. I got a cybersecurity role that I was having some trouble with, and so I reached out to Jim, and he introduced me to a couple of different things. One of them was the DEF CON groups, and reached out to them. Basically, they're like a messaging group, and I messaged the admins and said, hey, can I post my job in your group? And it was for the local Dallas group, and the guy said, sure. So I'm like, okay, hey, if one's good, let's do them all. So I started hitting up all the groups around the US. Well, most of them said, don't even think about it, which was kind of funny. But several of them offered other information to me, such as Slack groups, podcasts, different bloggers and things like that. And I had to do a pretty deep dive. And then I also did just some research like this and found seminars for the different cyber security conferences and the speakers that went there. But there were a couple of podcasters who took my job and reposted it with the link to the job in their weekly notes. And so I spent a lot of time, but I wound up with 5 people in final rounds for interviews for this particular role. And anyway, long story short, it was a major success, and it was because of Jim Schneider kind of pointing me in the right direction, all of this. But that's where I learned to really, really love all of the deep digging and things like that. Now, I know that when you do high volume recruiting, you don't have a lot of time for that. So I understand that this can't always be done. This is more like a special occasion. Or
It's really, for these challenging roles.
For these challenging
key points, work outside the box, get the message out there. And I think Ryan is hopping on here for a question.
He is. So I'm gonna stop there and let Ryan jump in, and then we will take it from there.
We can't hear you, Ryan. I think maybe you
might be on mute again.
Unless something's wrong on both of our ends.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. We can hear you.
It doesn't matter how many
your wonderful voice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many of these things I do, how often I do them. I'll yell, get yourself off of mute. And here I am, not on mute. So we I think we got time for about 5 or 6 questions. So let's run through them real quick. And before we do, Ashley, if you're there, can we launch a quick poll? So I forgot to mention that Skill Scout is the session sponsor for this session. So if you guys don't know Skill Scout, they've been a really great supportive partner of Recruiting Daily, specifically HRTX, over the last couple of years. They were there when we did in-person events until this year. But when we were very tiny, like 20 people, 30 people at these little meetups, all the way up until now, where in person we're putting 150 people in, and a couple thousand people on these types of calls, which is amazing. So if you don't know what Skill Scout does, they do video, right? So their job or their goal is to tell your story through video, not your typical employer branding video that's boring and highly produced. They really do some cool stuff, and they have some self video stuff that you can get into. Anyhow, they are offering a 20-minute brainstorming session, not to sell. That's why I love this company here, Abby and Elena and their team. They do not sell. In fact, or one of the few vendors that we brought out that just refuse to sell. They just give workshops. And so basically you're going to get a 20-minute workshop on how to use video within your company, and they'll show you and help you and walk you through it step by step on how to use your phone to film and how you get your hiring managers involved and things like that. So if you want, take advantage of it, let us know, and we'll make that introduction there. Definitely some good people to know. We'll get you there. All right,
Cool.
so
Awesome.
let me move my questions back over here because I want to look at the screen. All right, so we're going to take this first one for what it is. If this were a battle, who would you vote as the winner? I'm not going to answer that one. So, all right.
That dude's a rock star.
Yeah.
I totally don't forget where he came from.
We do have to point out the whole reason that I got into this business is because of him. He saw a post on Facebook from Mike Cohn. It was like, hey, this guy's looking for something. You should go hit him up. So I did, and here I am. So
not many people would brag about their parents getting them into recruiting. It's often the opposite way.
It worked out pretty well for me, so I really can't complain too much.
Yeah.
I feel like if I complained about that, I was being pretty stuck up, but
that's good. That's good. All right. So question one, is there any benefit to searching incognito? I've seen many recruiters do this.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do it just because it typically keeps Google from like tracking what you do. However, I should have cleared out my search history.
It's supposed to.
Yeah, it's supposed to. But I like searching there better just so that whatever I'm working on, maybe there aren't ads that come up later for it or things like that. It's just a little bit cleaner of a search. I don't think you have to, but it's my preference.
Okay. I did everything the same. Let me see. I did everything the same thing he is sharing right away. I'm searching for something more unique. I don't get that. Okay, we'll skip that one. My Boolean search often produces old resumes and candidate profiles. Is there any way for me to produce better results? And maybe if you guys want to go into how you can leverage older resumes and CVs, because obviously they're not just going to all be junk.
Right. For me, I think old resumes, even older posts that are out there. First of all, if you're doing a Google search, it's probably best to approach it with, hey, this is a place where I'm going to start my networking, to start my research. Like I said, you're probably not going to find a list of profiles there like you would on Dice or Career Builder that are actively looking and ready to go. So I think a lot of it is more about perspective. I view the results from my Google search as a data pool, someplace where I can go and start either building skills maps, anything related to the job. I keep really good notes, and because you can use them on multiple searches. So even if you finding an old resume or an old post on there, I wouldn't say that it's completely invaluable. Just think outside of the box of another way that you could extract the information and use it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. As far as finding new profiles, I mean, I haven't personally played with this, but I'm sure there's something you could do if you're wanting to get new profiles from LinkedIn that, maybe they're people who aren't in their job for 15 years, maybe they've only been there 3 years, that you can probably do something like route it to search for experience around 5 and then type in a certain year, maybe 2018, 2017, 2016, but not add in, maybe 2009 is a little too long ago.
Right.
So definitely just play with that and look at, if you're ever wanting to figure out how to search for something different, look at how a particular web page that you're wanting to search for is built up, what type of words are next to each other and what type of words always appear on profiles. And you can use those to kind of route your search to in a way.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think so. These last two we can group together, and then we'll move on here. So let me go through both of those, and then you can kind of dice them up. What do your not symbols mean to eliminate garbage? So why are you using not? And I forget who it was. Maybe in Chally it said not to use not yesterday. So I think that's what they're referring to. And then with the minus example, so your exclusion of terms, aren't you excluding people who also put in their resume, like something like, for example, I was.
Mhm.
So by excluding example, are you actually hurting your search?
I wouldn't say you're hurting it. Remember, the initial search is a place to start. I typically will spend most of the time building the search. So if I don't get the results that I'm looking for by using, or I should say by excluding some of the, for example, I'll go back and do a different search. One of the things that I did not show you today, just because of time, is even sometimes before I use all the minus signs, I will add natural language to the skill set. So for instance, in quotes, I would put, for example, or responsible for, or did this, or created that, or designed this. Whatever natural language would be on the particular profile that I was looking for, I may add that before I do the exclusions. So today was kind of a condensed version of that. But yes, just looking at today's results, that question is valid. You would be excluding something.
Yeah, and I want to attack kind of the fundamentals behind that question as well. Is that it's, if you're ever wondering whether you should search for something in a certain way or not, and you recognize that there is a cost associated with a particular piece of your Boolean that you're adding, just do a little bit more of a conscious cost benefit analysis and ask yourself and look at the results of, okay, eliminate example. Let's see how many profiles before that, or how many search results were coming up that were garbage that I didn't want to look at. How many are eliminated that are garbage by using this example elimination in my Boolean versus, how many nice profiles do I lose because of that? Just be more conscious about that cost benefit analysis, and you can come to that conclusion on your own, and it'll be case by case in a lot of scenarios.
Okay.
Doesn't he sound smart?
A little bit. He's doing all right. He's doing all right. So we're gonna bring in let's bring in Katrina and Sarah. So we can still see your hands going back and forth, which is pretty cool. Hey Katrina, there we go. We've got Katrina and we've also got Sarah coming up. So they've been sitting here patiently.
You guys are
watching
in for a treat.
Yeah, it was a great session.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, everyone's in for a treat. Sarah and Katrina.
I was doing a run. Sorry.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. I know you guys are on vacation, so wherever you are, I forget where you said you are. Enjoy the beach. I know there was a beach. I saw some photos.
The beach
so
is
enjoy
calling.
that. Yeah, and enjoy it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And we're gonna kick you guys off now.